Okay, welcome to the evening session of Ask Coach. This is Jeff with Total Running Club. There we go. So we're trying a different time tonight. This is the weekly session where you are able to ask any questions you would like to do with running and training, and I will do my best to answer those as honestly as I can. If I cannot answer it, I will say that I cannot answer it. I'm not going to make anything up. But hopefully I can answer most of the questions. There's no structure, there's no agenda. I've got a few things up my sleeve to kick off with, which we'll do in a couple of minutes. But basically you're free to type any questions you would like. I'll feature those on the screen and then I'll answer them, and normally there'll be a few spin-off questions coming. So let's just wait a couple more minutes. If someone could just type a comment to let me know that you can hear me okay, so that I'm not just talking to myself, that would be awesome. Hi, Azrael, how are you? Oops. Right, I think I'm good to go. The sound is okay, that's great. So it's 8 o'clock, let's kick it off. I'm sure more people will join once we get going. Yeah, if you just joined us, you're very welcome. My name is Jeff from Total Running Club. This is Ask Coach, part of our weekly community content that we're providing. Lots of new things coming soon. We'll be announcing them over the coming week or two. We've got some exciting new stuff that's going to be free for everyone. But this is the Q&A. Last week we had Adele for a nutrition session, which was really good, and the edited video is available for playback on our YouTube channel if you want to check that out. Okay, so I wanted to introduce tonight's session, talking a little bit about why we run and how we structure our running, which I think is a nice way of opening up the session while we wait for a few questions to come in. So I suppose there's a few sort of golden rules around running training, especially if you're looking to progress your running and to improve your running, which I think most of us are. So I think one of the rules that I was thinking about today, I just went for a run a couple of hours ago, and I was thinking about the importance of knowing the purpose of every run. And I think that's quite a good lesson for every level of runner, but particularly for the newer runners. So it's good to know why you are doing the run. So is it a recovery run where you're just going very slow in order to let the blood flow a bit after a harder session? You're tired, you just want to get the legs moving again. That has its purpose, of course. Is it a longer run where you're looking to build endurance? You're looking for time on feet? Is it a speed session where you're specifically working on fast running, or a hill session where you're working on strength on the hills? So every run should have a purpose. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. And if you don't know why you're doing the run, you should. So a lot of us kind of just go out there and run and decide during the run maybe what you're going to do, and that's not always the best strategy. But of course it's fine if you're just wanting to blow off a bit of steam. But if you're serious about improving, your running should have a structure, and everything should fit into that structure. And one of the other golden rules is avoiding back-to-back hard sessions. So I think that's really important. Don't do a hard speed session on a Saturday and a long run on a Sunday. You're not really giving your body enough recovery time, for example. Okay, And the final point, sorry, just to make, is that everything really requires a lot of patience. So nothing comes quick. Results take time, they take patience, they take persistence, they take consistency. So every run has a purpose. You need to build those blocks for continual improvement, and you have to have a long-term outlook with that. Okay, I might come back to that. I've got a few other points that I've written down, but enough from me on that. Azrael, what's your question? Let me just feature that here. So, besides doing strides at the end of runs, what are other better lone or weighted exercises or stretches to increase or improve stride length? Okay, good question. So just to explain what strides are, if in case people don't know. So strides are something that we do often during part of a dynamic stretching warm-up. It's preparing the body for faster running. So a stride is essentially just an increased pace as part of the warm-up. So it might be a 50 meter, 70 meter, not a sprint, but good pace, where you're focusing a little bit on your technique. You're trying to run nicely. And often with the people I train, and Azrael is one of my let's call him a trainee. Azrael is one of my athletes, and I give him a lot of strides predominantly within easy runs. So that might be an 8K easy run with strides towards the end. And the purpose of that specifically is to just add a little bit of speed during a lot of easy mileage, just to keep the legs ticking over fast, and to add a focus on technique during an easy run where we don't always think so much about our technique. So yes, it may help your stride length, but that's not really the purpose of the stride. I know it's called stride, but actually it's probably more about cadence and speed than stride length itself. But anyway, other options let's focus on increasing or improving your stride length. I mean, we've actually talked about this in every Q&A, and I keep sort of emphasizing, well, don't worry too much about your stride length. And apologies if any of you were listening to the previous ones, but stride length, in my experience, relates more to mobility and particularly hip strength. So that is what I would encourage you to focus on in order to improve your stride, your running, and your cadence. So by having strong hips and mobile hips, it enables us to lift the knee when we're tired and to pull the foot through when we're tired, so that this foot strike is coming under our hips, and that enables us to maintain form. And when we can maintain form when we're tired, we can run a faster pace, and we'll get fitter, and eventually do that longer distance, like in a marathon. If you look at the marathon runners, it's just a wonderful sight to see. It's not very exciting watching a 2-hour marathon race, but one thing I like to watch, if I do happen to be looking at that, is just seeing in the last sort of 20 minutes of a marathon where they're running incredibly quickly, just seeing the way that their stride hasn't changed in any way, and that's just incredible. But that's a result of obviously training hard, but being in the right condition and having the right strength and mobility. So hopefully that is a long-winded way of answering that a little bit. Okay, guys, give me your questions. It's an open forum. You need to type in your questions so that I can see them. Then I'll feature them up, and I'll do my best to answer anything that's being asked. Nutrition we can talk about. It's not my expert area for sure, but simple questions definitely I can handle. Absolutely anything you want, but let's try and focus a bit on training tonight if we can, and structure of training. So here we go. How long is usually best for base training? I'm not currently training for a specific distance, only trying to get back to training after slacking off for 2 months. Okay, nice question. Thanks very much for bringing that one to the table. I think this is quite common, isn't it, where we have ups and downs in our focus on training, and it could be seasonal, could be around Ramadan. MCO is a classic. A lot of us have found it hard to maintain our training. So yeah, it's important to recognize I need to think about that first and foremost. So base training, what does that mean? Probably, well, it can mean a few things. In my mind, well, let's assume there's no injuries involved and you've just not been running for a while. So first priority is to make sure we come back safely. We don't do too much too quick, and we don't get injured. Always the first priority, avoid injury. So it's a good idea to focus a little bit on strength work, or more strength work than we would normally do. A lot of people probably go straight into slow, long mileage, and I don't necessarily think that's the right thing to do. It's probably better to put a bit of speed work in before you then move on to endurance and longer running, because you'll get a quicker gain from that. So there's no right or wrong answer for what you would say is base training. I think the very important point is not to do too much too quick. But it completely depends on your experience, how long you've had off, how many years you've been running, yeah, the kind of load your body is used to handle. But let's give an example. Let's say you were running 30 kilometers per week for a very consistent period of a couple of years, and then you've taken a couple of months off, or even 6 months off because of MCO. Obviously, don't immediately jump back in at 30k. That will be risky. But yeah, you just need to build up to that point. But if you're a new runner and you don't have that experience, then be a bit more cautious. Hopefully that answers that. Okay, Rati, good evening. If our goal is to achieve a PB over a distance, say half marathon, but current time is like 45 minutes away, what kind of training should we do? How long before attempting to get try for PB? Oh, there's a lot in that one. Let me just make sure I've got that. Right, so I think what you're saying is you're targeting a very aggressive personal best time, which is fine. That's okay. I mean, goals have to be realistic. Can be a bit dangerous to sort of chase a specific time, and there has to be some context to the time that you're chasing. So I'm never going to run a sub-2 marathon. Neither's the majority of the world. So there's no point in me trying to do that. So it's got to be a bit realistic. It completely depends on your ability, your training history, many different personal factors. But okay, let's speak generally. How do we improve our time? I mean, that's simple. It's consistent, hard, patient training. There's no shortcuts. So your improvement will always go up if you train in the right way, but it will always then plateau once your body starts to cope with what you're doing. And then you've got to change something, and we can get another improvement. If you're new to running, or if you're a bit younger, those improvements happen quicker. If you're older like me, you've got to train a lot harder to get small improvements. So the points I would make, just to summarize, you've got to mix up your training. You must include speed work in your training, different types of speed work. If we're focusing on half marathon, you're going to have to put some mileage in. You definitely need to build some mileage. But of course, your goal is to get quicker over those long runs as well. So it's a hard one to answer. Make sure your goals are realistic. If they're too hard, if it's a 45-minute improvement, that is a lot. you might find yourself getting demotivated if you don't achieve that too quickly. So someone may achieve that within 6 months. Someone may take 10 years. Hard to answer. I've just seen one more comment from Rati. I walk for 30 minutes. Okay, so if we can get you not walking during your half marathon, that's obviously going to make you quicker. So you just need to build on that training so that you are not walking. Perhaps increase by 1 run per week. Hard to answer without knowing your training history. Hi, Faris. 2 questions, all right. What other ways, apart from fat loss speed work, to improve anaerobic capacity? What would you recommend as a training schedule for Ramadan? Okay, I'm going to give you a joke first. It's been on my mind. I've kind of spoiled it already, but I'll do it nevertheless. So, when is the best time for training? In Ramadan, because you fast. You've probably all heard me tell that joke before. Okay, I'm going to answer the second part first, since we're talking about Ramadan, which is just around the corner. Yeah, a lot of people will do their training just before breaking fast, so late afternoon or very early evening. I think most people treat Ramadan as an opportunity to kind of maintain, if possible. It's very hard to train hard without, obviously, that nutrition. It can be a good chance to take a bit of a break if you've been training hard, or to do less rather if you've been training hard. But it can also be where you lose a lot of fitness, so you don't want to just take a month off. That's definitely avoided. So yeah, I think your 2 options are going to be early morning, but then you'll have eaten already, so that's not necessarily ideal. I think before breaking fast is the best one, so at least to drink not long after the workout. But being very careful of the heat, obviously, is a key priority. Some people can cope with it better than others. I think a good attitude is just not to try and do too much, not to worry about it too much. Just keep things ticking over. But definitely, you're going to reduce the intensity of what you're doing. Now, it's anaerobic training, so that's typically defined as short, intense effort that you can't stay for very long periods. I used to be a squash player, and a lot of the movement and speed and intensity squash is anaerobic. It's very short, sharp, and fast movement. Your heart jacks up. So there is benefit in that for running. Sprinters probably more than long distance runners. So we typically don't do too much anaerobic as a distance runner. Of course, in a fartlek or a speed work, there's elements of it, but probably not as much as you think, actually. So you have to determine if there's a benefit to your training of doing that or not. If you're a marathon runner or a half marathon runner, there's perhaps less need than if you're a 5-10K runner or shorter for sure. So yeah, I wouldn't get too worried about that. But to answer your question, it could be types of cross training, such as a racket sport. It could be doing 100-meter sprints as part of a workout, but you'd want to structure that very carefully. But yeah, I think you'll find you do a lot less than you probably think you do in anaerobic. Okay, please keep your questions coming. We've got another 10 or 15 minutes, depending what you've got. Someone had sent me in a question by email, and I love the question because it's a very, very generic question. Should I run a marathon? Question mark. And I had a good laugh when I read that, and then I thought, actually, it's not such a bad question. So yes is my answer. I think everyone in their life should try and run a marathon. I think a marathon is a fantastic achievement. Nobody can take it away from you once you've done one. It's something you should be really proud of. It's something you can tell your family and your kids and be super proud of, because it's not easy. So yes, try and run a marathon in your life. I encourage you to do so. But think about how you're going to do it, plan for it, train for it, be patient before you do it. So there is not much pleasure in running a 7 or 8 hour marathon. And anyone who's done that, I think, will identify with that. It's not fun. It's still a great achievement, and I'm not putting that down in any way. But yeah, training well for it is going to make it a lot more enjoyable. And I think in Malaysia, I've seen over the years, people are always eager to enter races, which is great. Hasn't been the case, obviously, recently. But if there's an option of a 21 or a 42, just be sensible. It's perhaps better to focus on 21 first and get that time down before you want to tackle the 42. But of course, it's always that big temptation, isn't it, to do the 42? But you got to have time to train if you want to take it seriously. So yeah, I encourage you. Thanks for the question. Go for it, but you need to train for it, of course. Okay, that was one email question. There was one more I've got. If there's no more online questions, then we'll wrap it up after that. It's going to be a brief one tonight, so come on, give me a few more questions, please. This was coming back to purposes of runs. So actually, there's 2 questions came in. One was about hill running. Why do we do hill workouts? How does that benefit our training? So, which is a great question. I do a lot of hill workouts with my groups. People always moan about them, but they secretly enjoy them, I think. But hills are great strengthening workouts. So you're using different muscles that you would use when running on the flat. They're hard, and because they're hard, you're obviously working harder than you would. So you're benefiting both cardio and your legs. For me, glutes is a big factor. When you run fast up a hill, which we would never normally do, probably in a race or in an easy jogging run, but when we do a workout involving fast running up a hill, you're really employing your glutes much more than you would normally do so. So I like to tell my groups, okay, you should have a sore ass tomorrow, which of course gets a giggle. So that's an obvious benefit. If you have a sore muscle group the next day, then you know you've worked that, and you know it's probably a weak muscle. So yeah, hill training is fantastic. I actually really love hill training. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm from Scotland and we have lots of hills. Derek, good evening. From up in Penang, what's a realistic time frame to expect an improvement, such as 1 minute in a 5K time trial or 5 minutes in a 10K time trial if I train properly 3 times a week? Okay, kind of similar scenario to previous question. It depends on many things. I know Derek. He's a solid runner. He's a fit guy. So he has less capacity for improvement than a newer runner. So yeah, I can't answer that specifically, Derek, but a 1 minute improvement in 5K. Well, let's assume your 5K time is 25 minutes. I think. Oh no, you're quicker than that. So I think you're about 22 minutes. Sorry, I insulted you there. So let's say you're trying to get under 20 minutes, which would be a very nice target to do. So a sort of 1 or 2 minute improvement. Yeah, it might well take you a year. It might take you more. 3 times a week, is that training properly? Not sure. Depends what else you do. 3 times a week's probably not enough, but I know you play a lot of football, so there's probably other cross training in there. But I think if you're looking for, at your level, a 1 minute improvement from a 22 to a 21, you probably need to run more than 3 times a week to achieve that. But it depends on your history before. If you've been improving 1 minute every month and you're still on that improvement curve, then you'll do it, no problem. But I'm not sure that's the case. 5 minutes for 10K is a big improvement. It's a lot. If you're already sort of doing well at the 10K, then that's definitely going to take a week, I would suggest. Happy to speak to you about that, Derek, and motivate you further. Okay, any last questions, guys? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up and make it a quick one tonight. Just wait a few seconds in case anyone wants to add on a final question. A couple of things I can update you on while we wait. We will soon have our first Total Running Club podcast. Really excited about that. There's a teaser coming out next week. I'm not going to tell you who it is. It's top secret who the guest is. I'm looking forward to that. I'm recording that this Sunday, and it's going to be awesome. So we're going to be featuring a podcast regularly, and at some point we'll reach out for ideas on who you'd like to hear as the guest. And we'll be introducing lots of other new elements to Total Running Club's weekly content. Okay, one last question here from Azrul. Feel free to type in any more. We've got 5 more minutes. Oops. Yes, it will be on Spotify, Faris. I just put that out by mistake, sorry. What's your opinion on best sleep hours a day for marathon runner in training? As much as possible is the answer. Professional runners have a big advantage that they, or successful ones, that they don't have a day job. A lot of them will isolate themselves in training camps away from everything, which is not easy, but a big part of that training is going to be getting a lot of rest in the day. So sleep's hugely important. You just need to track your heart rate, your resting heart rate every day, and see how it changes when you're absolutely knackered after a few bad nights sleep and a few busy days compared to when you're well rested. It's probably 10 to 15 beats difference, which is huge. So yeah, the more you get consistent good sleep, the better your training will be. Of course, it differs for everyone. Some people can survive on less sleep. I try to get 7 to 8 hours, and I'm quite disciplined with that. And I think that helps a lot. And actually, I've noticed since MCO, because there's no racing, when there was races on every weekend, and I would probably race a couple of times a month, which is actually too much. And you're up very early for those races, then you're hanging about after for the prizes. Probably takes about 10 hours just to do that race, which is exhausting. You're not really recovering properly. The day before, you don't rest, you don't sleep well because you're a bit nervous. So actually, your whole weekend, your sleep is gone. And I've noticed without races that I'm much more rested, and my training's been much better. So yeah, don't underestimate how important sleep is a day. And I think Derek Young is very good endorsement for that. He sleeps about 15 hours a day. Okay, so let's call it a night. Thanks for tuning in. We will edit the video as always and post it up on Facebook and also on YouTube. Our website's just undergoing a spot of maintenance at the moment, unexpectedly. Hopefully be back properly tomorrow, so apologies for that. But anyway, over the next few days we'll get the recording back up. Okay, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.